Hello and a very warm welcome to yet another fascinating edition of the program CAC Weekly, a weekly program that keeps you abreast on the activities and the achievements of the Corporate Affairs Commission. My name is Amina Jibril. Now, coming up on the program, as digitization continues, CAC dispatches teams to interface with customers and enhance usability on the CRP. Plus, company law expert takes us through the regulation of names of businesses. But we'll be right back after this break. Do stay with us.
As of today, before you register, TIN has to be generated. And when the TIN is generated, it's affixed to the certificate. And the information about the registered entity is automatically transmitted to FIRS. And before FIRS issued any tax clearance to any company, they must validate the information on that company with the CAC. We are taking it to the next level with financial information. At present, the information we maintain on audited financial statements is mainly on paper or on PDF, which makes it difficult to analyze. We are getting support from the EU to deploy extensible business reporting language, XBRL system, for financial reporting by companies that may choose to do that, so that they submit the raw data to us in an XBRL sheet, and anybody interested can extract the information and analyze it. It will help researchers. It will help other people that are engaged in other economic activities to analyze these accounts and compare company A to company B. This is the best practice in other registries. But it's not mandatory. It's mainly utilized by some of the major companies. And it's not mainly the auditors that do that. But you cannot achieve that without the taxonomy for the country report. Every country has its own taxonomy. And that taxonomy is based on the accounting standard issued by the relevant authority in the country. So we know the requirements of the Financial Reporting Council. They have their standards of reporting for companies. The law has given CAC the right to issue financial standards for incorporated trustees. But in the regulation, we carefully dodged that and shifted that responsibility to Financial Reporting Council. We don't want to have any regulatory arbitrage with the FRC.
Thank you for staying tuned. We begin today with the efforts being made to enhance usability on the company's registration portal, the CRP. Now, our esteemed viewers may recall that the Corporate Affairs Commission, the CAC, had on 3rd of January 2021 commenced the implementation of the CAMA 2020. Now, since then, it's been one reform or another for the CAC, which is considered today as one of the most improved government agencies. Over 90% of its services have been made available online via the company's registration portal, the CRP, and access given to either accredited customers or any interested member of the public. Aware of the challenges the new registration module may pose to particularly not too tech-savvy customers, the Corporate Affairs Commission, in collaboration with the CRP software developer, Oasis Management Company Limited, dispatched teams to all the 36 states of the Federation to further sensitize its customers on the workability of the registration module. Now, the technical team is currently traversing the length and breadth of the country to ensure that more users have better understanding of the workings of the CRP. Have a look at a typical customer engagement and training on the CRP held in Lagos Island and Lagos Iketa offices of the Commission under the tutelage of Mr. Tululokpe Adiola Shanaike, the Assistant Director, Registry.
Now, when you determine that this is not consistent, what you do is you send the bill to SP, says in your corporate page. People use it at the biggest result. SP at CAC.gov.hu. S for someone, B for police, and U for umbrella. Right? At CAC. .gov.ng. Once we get that to your computer, please always attach anything you have. If it's the most recent CTC of CO7, whatever it is, we will work with that and update it. Now, if you now proceed after the update, the results you have, they have to be correct. Sometimes we even check and it's bringing up nothing. What happens is that we don't have anything in the database for that company. We just send and move it. Three. Just a minute. After.
Sometimes it comes that very easy. Then sometimes you do registration and it takes over a week to get it.
So we'll keep working on that too, because Mr. Katina, our service delivery report, over 80% are within time.
Yeah.
So
we can even display it.
Yes. So we'll keep working.
Now, similar sessions were conducted in Abeokuta and other offices of the Commission in a bid to enhance userability. Some participants at the CRP training who spoke to CAC Weekly applauded the Commission for organizing the event, which they said has greatly improved their understanding of the new system. They further commended the foresight of the Registrar General Alhaji Garba Abubakar and urged him to sustain the tempo. On his part, the Registrar General Alhaji Garba Abubakar, in a goodwill message to the CRP trainees, reiterated his commitment to ensuring full digitization of CAC operations in line with global best practices. Alhaji Garba Abubakar therefore charged the participants to embrace the technology which aims to simplify registration processes in line with the ease of doing business initiative of the present administration and also enhance the Commission's revenue, amongst others. And now we move on to our interviews segment. Like we say, the CAMA 2020 alias The Game Changer has brought series of innovations to sanitize and improve the business environment as obtained in other climes. Now, CAC Weekly caught up with Mr. Tolulokpe Adiola Shanaike, who is the Assistant Director, Registry. He takes us on a journey through the regulation of names of businesses as enshrined in CAMA 2020. Sit back, relax, and enjoy watching this interview.
Okay, many thanks for joining us again.
Thank you very much, Madina.
All right. Today we're looking at regulations of name for business registration. But before we go into the details, just how important is a name to a business?
Okay. A name is important.
I'm sure you say just how important is a name to a child.
To a child.
Or to a person.
So it's in the same vein. A name is very important to a business to underscore the uniqueness of that business. By that I mean to be able to distinguish one business from the other and to also avoid passing off. By passing off, we mean supposing one business to be another business. I mean, if names, everybody uses, or two or three people use the same name or names that are similar, identical. The challenge will be that the ordinary person in the streets may take A for B or B for A. And in that regard, undue advantages or even detriments will either be enjoyed or suffered by one of the two names.
And there'll be a lot of commotion.
There'll be a lot of confusion in the system. And it's also important that you have a distinctive name, a unique name, to protect your product and your services. As you grow your businesses, the goodwill and all of that, the only way you can protect that name, because people know you by your brands and by your name, right? So the only way you can have a legal protection is for you to register that name. So for every business, whether small or big, it is important that you have a name that the law recognizes and licenses you to use.
Okay. So now let's go to the time frame for name reservation, because on the website, when you are doing your registration, I think there's a column for name reservation. What is it? I reserved it forever. Once I reserve a name, that's the end of the registration.
No. When the commission has powers to reserve a name for you, if that name is available, for not more than 60 days. Now, within those 60 days, what the law does is to give you protection, for the use of the name.
Okay.
Within those 60 days, the commission cannot approve a name for registration or even reservation that is similar or identical with that name. So you sort of enjoy some proprietary rights over that name. Okay. Reservation of name is not the registration of a company by that name or a business by that name. It's just a step to say, okay, now for that business, you have reserved, the law has recognized that you want to use this name for that business. So the law now allows you time that within this time frame, you should be able to put all your documentations together and proceed to register that business by that name. Okay. Now, if within the 60 days or any such lesser period that the commission approves for you, you do not take steps to register that business by that name, you lose any such right to that name. In other words, after the expiration of that time, any other person that submits a name that is similar or that is even identical, that is exactly the same thing, will get it approved.
So there's no extension after the 60 days?
There is nothing like extension in law, right? What happens is that once it expires and you don't use it, you are just like any other person. So whoever submits a name like that first gets it. Of course, we know that because you are interested and you have started some processes, you are likely to be the same person that will submit the name again first, But if you are not diligent enough and any other kind of name similar to that one comes in, the commission will approve it. And you can't come and say, you approved it for me before. Why are you not approving it for some other person?
Okay.
Equity, like they say, only aids the vigilant.
Within the period of 60 days, I can decide to use it for my business, isn't it?
Oh yes. I mean, that's why you have the
so
right.
even without registering, I can start using the name.
If you mean by using for business to carry on business.
Yes.
No, because that's not registration.
Okay.
It will be unlawful.
So the fact that it's reserved for me does not mean I can carry on with business.
No, you've not registered that business, that name, right? You have to register it before you can carry on business.
So no shortcut.
No shortcut. Interestingly, I mean, that's an interesting angle you just brought into it. Interestingly, from our experience, we see that a lot of people do that anticipatory. They wait. They say, "Don't worry, it's been approved," and they can go on and use it. They make a lot of commitments, and if along the line something happens and we say, no, you cannot use this name anymore, then it becomes an issue. You say, but why would you approve and you then tell me not to use it anymore? But the fact is that the law recognizes such situations that we may approve now, and by some inadvertence, we shouldn't have approved. So at a higher level, because there are different levels of checks, before you get your company registered within the commission, in the process there are levels of checks, like what you call gatekeepers. So you have an approving officer, right, who looks at the name, reviews it, and approves it. As it goes further, before you are certificated for that business, another person looks at it. And at a point, somebody may say, this name, you shouldn't have approved it in the first place. Why did you approve it? And then we will say, sorry, you cannot use this name again. Change it. Now, until you get your certificate of registration, the CAC can tell you to change a name for any reason that falls within the requirements of the law.
Does the commission have mechanism, to check such people?
Well, once we don't say use it and you go ahead to use it, you are just in the same state as somebody who is carrying on business without registration. Okay. Of course, when we find there are stiff penalties in the law. In fact, there's also the risk of imprisonment.
No, so what's the penalty?
The penalty
so
is a daily penalty. It's a daily penalty. It's huge.
Okay.
It depends on how long you have carried on business. It's a daily penalty, and you can have, if it's just one person or two people carrying on, you may have, the law may be computing 500 naira or 250 naira against you daily for so long. And you may also run the risk of 3 or 6 months imprisonment.
So that brings me to the next question, where can the commission, withdraw or cancel names? That's one part of the question. And then the next question will be, at what point does the commission, withdraw or cancel names? Okay,
I'll address the first one.
Yeah.
Yes, the commission can withdraw, cancel or revoke a name that has been approved. For instance, if a name was improperly procured or procured by fraud, okay, you deceived us into approving it. Maybe you hide some material facts. You get the name. Yes, by the time we discover that this name was unlawfully procured, you shouldn't have given him in the first place. Then we can say, no, we can't use it again. We can withdraw and we can revoke it.
Okay.
You can also withdraw or revoke where, for instance, a name is given, an approval is given, based on some assurances you have given the commission. Now, a clear example of that will be in the case of the use of the word holding in the name of a company, right? Now, a holding relationship is a relationship that is presumed by law once there are certain operating conditions, right? And the law is clear about that. Where a company holds controlling shares, in fact, 51% or more shares in another company,
Okay.
right? The company that holds the shares becomes a holding company for that other company. Sometimes it may not be about shareholding. It may just be that this company is able to determine the directors of that other company, the composition of its board, majorities. Now, this company becomes a holding company for that other company. So in that case, you don't even need the word holding in the name.
Okay.
Right? It's the relationship.
Okay.
Once that relationship exists, the law says you are a holding company for the other one. That other one is your subsidiary. But sometimes people want to use the word holding.
Yes, because you just wake up one morning and
You
give
see?
yourself something Medina Holdings.
Holdings. Fine. No problem. The law does not say you cannot
And I'm
do
not
that
holding anything.
at all. Now, that is where the law now says that if Medina now wants to use holding in his name, right, as Medina Holdings Limited, it must actually hold something.
So what about people who use group of companies?
It's also similar, for a group of companies. The only difference...
Yeah, GMD.
Yes, the only problem with the group of companies is that before we even register you, right, the requirement is that once you call the associate companies, they are not subsidiaries, right? They are referred to as associate companies.
Okay.
Will you show us evidence that there's something common in the ownership of all those associate companies?
Okay.
So there must be a common owner.
Are all names, qualified for reservation?
No.
All names.
No, it's not every name that comes to the commission that the commission can approve. There are the law recognizes two categories of names. That you must look carefully at.
Okay.
In fact, in one case you can't even approve it. In the other one, you can approve the name subject to certain conditions. So that's why you have what you call restricted names. And then you have what's called prohibited names.
Okay.
Now, restricted names are the names that may be registered, right, upon satisfaction of certain conditions.
Okay.
Right.
So
now,
what are the conditions?
The conditions are prescribed by the Act.
Okay.
The first of them is that, for a restricted name, is that a name that is identical to that by which a company is already in existence, right, cannot be approved for use by another company, a business name, a limited liability partnership, or a limited partnership.
Okay.
Right, or even for incorporated trustees.
Okay.
The only condition.
Is it like something like H Medics?
Right. The only condition
Okay.
that will allow us to approve such a name is that the company that is in existence must be in the process of winding up, liquidation.
Oh, okay.
So it must first be dying. Then you can now say, since I'm dying, that same company must not signify its consent. Since I'm dying, you can allow them to use it. I don't have any objection to it.
Okay.
But it cannot exist side by side.
Okay.
So if you have H Medics Nigeria Limited, you cannot have another H Medics business name or H Medics Limited Liability Partnership.
Or anything H Medics. Okay.
Or something H Medics Universal Limited. There's no difference whether it's Universal or Nigeria. In Nigeria company is also Universal. Another one is where the name so resembles a company, limited liability partnership, or business name, as to be calculated to deceive, to be misleading.
Okay.
So you have, like the example we just gave, H Medics Limited, right? And you have H Medics Global Limited.
So that's very misleading.
Very misleading. Yeah. Particularly because they are in the same industry, in the same line of business, pharmacy, drugs, and all of that. Okay. Now, where a name contains the word Chamber of Commerce, right? You can register it, but you can only register it as a company limited by guarantee.
Okay.
Then when we are, the name you are bringing, we believe it violates an existing trademark or business name. Okay, ordinarily we will not register it. The only condition upon which we will register it is if you get the consent of the owner of that trademark or the owner of the business name. And that consent must be in writing.
Okay.
So if you bring it, then the process, because we regulate it, you must get, once we get that consent and the reservation code, that you apply for reservation code, we will give you, then you can register it. Then where you have names that include words like federal, municipal, local governments, you know, states, you know, where you have Lagos State H-Medics Limited. When you first hear that name, the first thing that strikes your mind is, oh, okay, so Lagos State is now running a pharmacy or an H-Medics. Lagos State now has an H-Medics, you know, as a government. So that, again, is misleading. If it's a purely and entirely private arrangement, then why do you want to suggest that it's owned by the government?
So let's move to the prohibited names.
Okay, now.
Those ones are no-go areas.
Just to say, the way just as the name suggests, they are prohibited.
Okay.
So in these cases, there is no condition, there's nothing to do to repair them.
Okay.
Right? If names fall within this category, what the law says is that we should not approve them. You know, the first of such is where a name is capable of misleading as to the nature and extent of its activities.
Okay.
Right? So where the name you are bringing does not sufficiently address the extent of your activities.
Okay, paint a scenario for us.
For instance, okay, there was one that a colleague just called me for. You know, he just said maybe next, something about next fund, right? When you hear that name, ordinarily,
Next fund,
you are thinking that it's a finance company,
yes,
or at least involved in funding, right? It may be money transfers, it may be the idea is that it's either a fintech or an investment company, a finance investment company, investment funding company. And you now hear something like Next Fund Bookshop. That name and the objects you have been listed, they don't reconcile, they're inconsistent. You know, the name you have given us is wider than the object you are proposing. You know, and there's nothing in your list of objects to even suggest a connection with the name. Then we shouldn't approve such a name.
Okay.
It's prohibited. Because once you do that, what you have done is to give them the license to go beyond what is ordinarily expected.
Okay.
You understand? And they can use that as a license to go into some regulated areas without getting approvals from those regulators. Now, the second one is that where a name is undesirable, where it is offensive, where it's contrary to public policy. So let's assume that you want to register an association of women of easy virtues.
Okay.
You know, you want to register an association of night crawlers.
Oh, no.
You know, things like that. From even the name, you know that this is offensive.
Very.
I mean, you shouldn't be promoting things like this. And then where a word also, a name contains words that are likely to mislead the public as to the nationality, race, or religion of the promoters of the company, then it shouldn't. Where a name is also deceptive or objectionable because it contains or suggests association with any practice, you know, any personage, you know, or foreign or state government, you know, international organizations, where you bring a name that probably has something like Red Cross. Okay. And we cannot see the involvement of Red Cross in this. You should not, you shouldn't bring it at all. You should not approve it.
I don't know, of recent, I think we talked about it on this program where some people registered a church and they called it Fulani Christian Church.
And then...
so where does that name fall into? Is it restricted or prohibited?
Well, that name would ordinarily be prohibited if it is not... it should be objectionable because, again, you want to wonder, I mean, this is a religion. Why is the dichotomy between Fulani and others? You know, a church is a church. A Christian church is a Christian church. Why do you want to promote dichotomy in the system? You know, why do you want to promote such separatist agenda?
Yes.
So on that ground, you can simply subsume it under the class of objectionable names. Names that are contrary to public policy. Because the public policy should promote unity, should promote harmony, should promote order. If you allow such a name to go, what you have is that in time, you have balkanizations, you have chaos, and you have disorder in the system. So you are under an obligation, not just under the Act, even under the Constitution, not to promote such tendencies. Okay. So such names will be prohibited outright. I'm sure we refuse that name.
Okay. Okay, yes.
Or probably have queried it.
Okay, okay. So as we round up, you have a latest one now, NNPC, is it NNPC Limited?
Okay.
Or what do we have?
Yes, well, I don't know. I only read that the, Mr. President has given a go-ahead for them to register.
Mr. Tulok Lashanaka, many thanks indeed for your time as always.
Thank you very much, Medina.
And that's where we draw the curtain on this week's edition of the program, CAC Weekly. We do hope you enjoyed watching. Remember, for comments and inquiries, you can please take advantage of our social media handles and our helplines. On Instagram and Facebook, it is Corporate Affairs Commission. Our email is cservice@cac.gov.ng. You can reach us via our website at www.cac.gov.ng. And our helplines are on the numbers 081-822-99016 or 081-822-98971, 090-874-01598 or 090-874-01599 and 090-874-01600. Do join us next week for another interesting edition of the program. Same time and same station. From me, Amina Jabro, and the whole team here, it is bye for now.